Hello everyone, today we'll deal with another section under the chapter 24 general provisions as to inquiries or trials. So friends, it happens sometimes that a magistrate hearing a case against a certain accused finds from the evidence that some person other than the accused before him is also concerned in that very offense or in a connected offense. So it is only proper that the magistrate should have the power to call and join him in the proceedings. So section 319 provides for such a situation and is given below. So please hit the like button. So now let's start. So in course of inquiry or trial, so the stages are given in which it can be exercised, that is inquiry or trial. If it is appears from the evidence that any person not being an accused has committed the offense for which he could be tried together with the original accused, then the court may proceed against such person. So it says section 319 empowers the court to proceed against persons not being the accused appearing to be guilty of the offense and to issue process for the purpose. It provides that cognizance against the newly added accused is deemed to have been taken in the same manner in which cognizance was first taken of the offense against the earlier or original accused. So the term any person not being accused is also includes against whom no process has been issued earlier, also includes person named in the FIR but not named in the charge sheet. Then the Supreme Court has ruled that a person who has already been discharged in the case should not be summoned. Now let's come to the term of evidence. So the word evidence in this subsection read along with other provisions of this section means that the statements of witnesses are recorded by the court, and the same would not include statements under section 161 of witnesses recorded by the police, or statements recorded under section 164, or statements recorded under section 202. The evidence as mentioned in this subsection must be sufficient to make out a prima facie case against such person and satisfy all the essential ingredients constituting the offense for which he is sought to be prosecuted. So some more points. The court can exercise the power conferred on it under this section of the code so moto or on an application by someone also including the accused. The power conferred under section 319 applies to all courts including the sessions court as well. So now let's see subsection 2. It says where such person is not attending the court, he may be arrested or summoned as the circumstances of the case may require for the purpose aforesaid, and any person attending the court, although not under arrest or upon summons, may be detained by such court for the purpose of the inquiry into or trial of the offence which he appears to have committed. So the person who is called upon by the court, whether he attends or not attends, he may be arrested or detained by such court for the purpose of inquiry or trial. So subsection 4 says where the court proceeds against any person for the offence which he appears to have committed under subsection 1, then the proceedings in respect of such person shall be commenced afresh and witnesses reheard. And subject to clause A, the case may proceed as if such person had been an accused person when the court took cognizance earlier of the offence upon which the inquiry or trial was commenced. So it is basically called de novo trial. So Hardeep Singh vs State of Punjab is the landmark case of this section. Here the questions regarding the interpretation of section 319 have now been answered by a 5-member bench. So the first question is, what is the stage at which the power under section 319 CRPC can be exercised? So section 319 uses two expressions that have to be taken note of, that is inquiry and trial. As a trial commences after framing of charge, an inquiry can only be made under section 200, 201, 202 CRPC and also section 398 CRPC, which are the species of the inquiry contemplated by this section. So the materials coming before the court in course of such inquiries can be used for corroboration of the evidence recorded in the court after the trial commences for the exercise of power under this section. So now let's see the second question. What was that? Whether the word evidence used in section 319 clause 1 would only mean evidence tested by cross examination, or the court can exercise the power under the said provision even on the basis of statement made in examination in chief of the witnesses concerned. That means the word evidence will include the sentence witnesses mentioned in cross examination and examination in chief or not. So answering this, considering the fact that under section 319 a person against whom material is disclosed is only summoned to face the trial, and in such an event under section 319 clause 4 the proceeding against such person is to commence from the stage of taking of cognizance, the court need not wait for the evidence against the accused proposed to be summoned by cross examination. So it includes the examination chief also. So the third question was whether the word evidence used in section 319 clause 1 has been used in a comprehensive sense and includes the evidence collected during investigation, or evidence is limited to the evidence recorded during the trial. So after the committal, cognizance of an offence can be taken against a person not named as an accused, but against whom materials are available from the papers filed by the police after completion of the investigation. Such cognizance can be taken under section 193 CRPC, and the sessions judge need not wait till evidence under section 319 becomes available for summoning an additional accused. So evidence collected during investigation is also admissible. So the fourth question was, what is the nature of the satisfaction required to invoke the power under section 319 to arraign, that means to bring the accused to the custody, and whether the power under section 319(1) can be exercised only if the court is satisfied that the accused summoned will in all likelihood be convicted. So the degree of satisfaction will be the same as for framing a charge here. The difference in the degree of satisfaction for summoning the original accused and the subsequent accused is on account of the fact that the trial may have already commenced against the original accused, and it is in the course of such trial that the materials are disclosed against the newly summoned accused. Fresh summoning of an accused will result in delay of trial. Therefore, the degree of satisfaction for summoning the original and subsequent accused has to be different. So the fifth question was, does the power under section 319 extend to persons not named in the FIR or named in FIR but not charge sheeted or who have been discharged? Yes, provided it appears from the evidence that such person can be tried along with the accused already facing the trial. However, insofar as an accused who has been discharged is concerned, the requirement of section 300 and 398 CRPC has to be complied with before he can be summoned afresh. So section 319 is really an extraordinary power which is conferred on the court and should be used very sparingly and only if compelling reasons exist for taking cognizance against the person other than the accused. So this is all about section 319 CRPC. Hope you all will like it.